The 10th of May, 1940, 8 months after the beginning of the Second World War. Nazi Germany invades Belgium, and German troops storm across the Ardennes, bypassing the Maginot Line and overwhelming Belgian defenses with speed and brutality. In response, King Leopold III surrenders the Belgian army on the 28th of May and is placed under house arrest. Soon after, Nazi forces begin to occupy the country, and in the months that follow, they impose new laws that strip Belgian Jews of their rights and segregate them from the rest of society. Deportations to concentration and extermination camps begin in the summer of 1942. By the end of the war, around 25,000 Belgian Jews are deported to Auschwitz, where most of them are murdered. Among those who support and collaborate with the Nazis is a young, charismatic Belgian fascist who embraces Hitler's ideology and even volunteers to fight for the Nazis on the Eastern Front. Over time, he becomes the most infamous collaborator in Belgian history, a man admired even by Hitler himself. His name is Léon Degrelle. Léon Joseph Marie Ignace Degrelle was born on the 15th of June 1906 in the town of Bouillon in Belgium. He grew up in a French-speaking Catholic family in the southern Belgian region of Wallonia. The Degrelle family was highly religious. As a child, Léon attended Mass every day and was enrolled in a preschool run by the Sisters of the Christian Doctrine of Nancy. During the 1920s, while studying at the University of Louvain, he became active in journalism and developed a strong interest in public affairs. At just 24 years old, he took over a Catholic publishing house called Christus Rex, meaning Christ the King. Under his leadership, it began producing magazines, novels, and pamphlets focused on religion and current events. As the political climate in Europe grew more turbulent, Degrelle shifted the organization in a more political direction, and by the early 1930s, Christus Rex had transformed into a radical right-wing Catholic movement, simply known as Rex. Around the same time, in March 1932, Degrelle married Marie Lemay, the daughter of a French industrialist, and the marriage produced 5 children. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party came into power in Germany in January 1933. Meanwhile, in Belgium, Rex continued to grow in influence. At first, Rex operated within the Catholic Union, one of Belgium's major political parties. However, Degrelle soon challenged the party's leadership, accusing them of corruption and weakness. In late 1935, Rex broke away and became an independent movement. Although the Rexists lacked detailed policies, they positioned themselves as defenders of Catholic values, national unity, and loyalty to the Belgian monarchy. Degrelle, with his charismatic, confident, and passionate speaking style, quickly became the face of the movement. In the 1936 national elections, Rex surprised the country by winning over 11% of the popular vote. This early success gave Degrelle national attention and encouraged the movement to expand. Local branches were organized across Belgium, and Rex promoted itself as a firm opponent of communism. But the momentum did not last. In October 1936, inspired by Italian fascist leader Benito Mussolini's 1922 March on Rome, Degrelle staged a march on Brussels to demonstrate the strength of his movement. However, the demonstration had been officially banned, and very few supporters were willing to risk joining. The poor turnout turned the event into a public embarrassment and made Rex appear disorganized and out of touch. Degrelle's admiration for foreign authoritarian regimes also raised concerns. In 1936, he traveled to fascist Italy and Nazi Germany, where he met with top officials and even Adolf Hitler. Despite public denials, Degrelle accepted financial support from both Rome and Berlin, and these connections reinforced suspicions that Rex was under foreign influence. In 1937, Degrelle ran for office in Brussels against Prime Minister Paul von Zeelands, but lost. This defeat ended Rex's political momentum. As the 1930s drew to a close, Rex rapidly transformed into a fascist movement and included increasingly anti-Semitic rhetoric in its publications. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. In the months that followed, Degrelle placed the blame for the conflict not on Hitler, but on France and the United Kingdom, accusing them of creating the conditions that he believed had forced Germany to invade its neighbors. He also blamed Jews and Freemasons, whom he believed were conspiring to manipulate European powers into destroying Germany. On the 10th of May 1940, as German troops invaded Belgium and the Netherlands, Belgian authorities arrested Degrelle and other suspected Nazi sympathizers. After the rapid German conquest of Belgium, Degrelle was released in July 1940. He immediately began reorganizing the Rexist movement and sought to position himself as the leading figure in a future Belgian collaborationist regime. Degrelle believed he would be summoned to Berlin and placed at the head of the new Nazi-aligned Belgian government. However, these ambitions were quickly sidelined. The Germans chose to rule Belgium directly, relying on various local collaborators instead of placing power in Degrelle's hands. Still, Degrelle worked to align Rex more closely with Nazi Germany. His rhetoric became increasingly anti-Semitic, and by late 1940, Rexist members had already begun committing violent acts against Jews. In early 1941, Degrelle publicly declared Rex's full support for the German war effort and for Hitler's vision of a new Europe. For the first time, he even ended one of his speeches with the words, "Heil Hitler." To many Belgians, Rex now appeared less like a nationalist movement and more like a fanatical group of Nazi puppets. In the spring of 1941, Degrelle proposed the creation of Rexist military units to fight for Nazi Germany, but the idea gained little traction. By this time, Degrelle's influence in occupied Belgium had already begun to fade. On Sunday, the 22nd of June, 1941, under the code name Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. For Degrelle, this was a long-awaited chance to demonstrate his loyalty to Nazi Germany and increase his political standing. He proposed forming a multilingual Belgian unit to join the war effort, but the Germans rejected the idea. Instead, they created a French-speaking Walloon Legion under German army command. As the Nazis considered Walloons inferior to the Dutch-speaking Flemish, Walloon and Flemish volunteers were segregated into different units, and Walloons were only permitted to serve in the regular armed forces. In July 1941, Degrelle announced he would personally volunteer to fight, hoping to inspire others to enlist. The Legion, consisting mostly of Rexist supporters, left for training in Germany before being sent to the Eastern Front. Degrelle attempted to frame it as a patriotic force, but the unit was fully dependent on German command. By early 1942, it had already taken heavy losses. Degrelle soon became convinced that the SS, the elite paramilitary organization under the leadership of Heinrich Himmler, rather than the regular military, offered a more powerful path. He began meeting with senior SS officials and declared that Walloons had Germanic roots, arguing they belonged in Hitler's new Europe. In May 1943, Degrelle met with Himmler to request the transfer of the Walloon Legion into the Waffen-SS, the military branch of the SS. His request was granted, and in June of the same year, the Legion became SS Sturmbrigade Wallonien. Degrelle spent the latter half of 1943 enriching himself and his family with assets seized by the Germans from murdered Jews in Belgium and France. He purchased a Jewish-owned perfume company and launched a new newspaper, L'Avenir, which quickly became financially successful. That July, he attended Mass in his hometown in SS uniform and was denied the sacraments. In retaliation, he had the priest arrested and imprisoned in his own home. As a result, he was excommunicated by the Bishop of Namur in August 1943, though Degrelle managed to have it overturned through the SS chaplain service. In November 1943, Degrelle returned to the Eastern Front with the Legion. In January 1944, the unit was encircled by the Red Army in the Battle of the Korsun-Cherkasy Pocket, near the Dnieper River in present-day Ukraine. It suffered devastating losses, reduced from 2,000 men to just 632. Among the dead was the commanding officer, Lucien Lippert, and Degrelle himself was injured. He was promoted to SS Sturmbannführer, a rank equivalent to major, and flown to Berlin, where he became the poster boy for all European collaborators. In February 1944, shortly after awarding him the Knight's Cross, Hitler reportedly told Degrelle, "If I had a son, I would have wanted him to be like you." On the 8th of July 1944, Degrelle's brother Edward, who had supported the German occupation but played no role in Rex, was shot and killed in his pharmacy. In response, German forces arrested 46 men, and Rexist militants murdered another pharmacist. On the 10th of July, Degrelle returned from a speaking tour and demanded reprisals. He even wrote to Himmler requesting the execution of 100 Belgian civilians, an appeal that was ignored. However, on the 21st of July, Rexist attached to the SD, the intelligence agency of the SS and the Nazi Party, murdered 3 hostages near Bouillon. The Second World War in Europe ended on the 8th of May, 1945. Degrelle was sentenced to death by the Belgian justice system for high treason. He managed to escape to Spain, which was led by the right-wing authoritarian government of Francisco Franco. However, his wife Marie Lemay did not join him. Their marriage had become strained during the war, as Degrelle kept mistresses in Brussels and Paris. Lemay also cheated on her husband and had an open affair with an officer of the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. In March 1943, Lemay ended the affair and informed Degrelle of it. The following month, the officer, who was unwilling to end the affair, was found shot in the head and heart near the Degrelle residence. In Spain, Degrelle continued to live comfortably, having profited from running a construction company that helped build American air bases in Spain, and continued using his original name. Franco's regime was sympathetic to Axis powers, and many Nazi war criminals and collaborators fled there after World War II. Degrelle obtained Spanish citizenship in 1954, which gave him legal protection from extradition and prosecution. As early as 1949, Degrelle had begun to publish books and give interviews in which he praised the Nazis and denied the Holocaust. He was frequently discussed by French and Belgian media and had a great influence in the post-war resurgence of fascism. He openly associated with other Nazi exiles, such as Otto Skorzeny, and even wore his SS uniform to his daughter's wedding in 1969, an event widely reported in the Spanish press. In 1979, ahead of Pope John Paul II's visit to the Auschwitz concentration camp, Degrelle wrote an open letter to the Pope. In it, he denied that any systematic killing had taken place at Auschwitz, and claimed that the real genocide was the American atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Allied bombings of Hamburg and Dresden. In its July-August 1985 issue, the Spanish magazine Tiempo published an interview with Degrelle in which he repeated his Holocaust denial. He claimed that Josef Mengele, the SS officer stationed at Auschwitz, had merely been an ordinary doctor and insisted that no gas chambers had existed at the camp. Léon Degrelle, considered by many to be the father of today's neo-Nazis, was 87 years old when he died in Malaga on the 31st of March, 1994. Belgium forbade the repatriation of his remains.
Thanks for watching the World History channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.